Another meeting today?
Many people that run it. I'd like to call the meeting of the Development Committee to order. Today is February 18th. Time is 10:33 a.m. Would the clerk please call the roll?
Arroyo,
We're here.
Doherty,
We're here.
Garcia, Iqbal,
Iqbal present.
Linder,
Linder will not be here.
Tepe, Leonard,
Leonard here.
Berman,
Berman's here.
Williams.
Williams present.
With your ex officios, you do have an in-person quorum.
Thank you. Next on our agenda is the approval of the minutes from our January 21st, 2025 meeting. May I have a motion?
Leonard moves for unanimous consent for the minutes of the previous meeting.
See no objections, the minutes are approved. We have remote attendance request from Mr. Berman and Mr. Doherty. Is there any objection?
Objections.
Oh, and Mr. Iqbal, seeing none, they will be admitted to the meeting remotely.
Thank you.
Do we have anybody here for public comment? I see we have Ms. McCracken. Is she here on a petition?
Yeah.
Okay. Is there anybody else who'd like to address the board? Seeing none, we'll move on to our monthly financial report. Any questions? We're going to move on to the Building and Zoning Division. Mr. Van Kerkhoff.
Good morning, Mark Van Kerkhoff, Director of Development and Community Services. It's good to see you all on a very chilly morning. I'm happy to report that our building division continues to be fully staffed and grateful to be able to serve our customers. One thing we are working on with the Water Resources and Health Department is putting out an RFP to look at a new potential vendor for our coordinated permitting software program. The one we've been using, we've used for quite a long time. There's been quite a bit of changes in the way software and databases work with these systems. And I feel we could potentially improve all of our processes. One of the values we're holding highly is to continue to be on the same system as the Health Department and Water Resources so that we can coordinate our mainly parcel-based permitting systems as well as our property code enforcement. It helps us all work better, more efficiently together. So there'll be more word on that as the RFP comes out and we get responses and how that all works. But I wanted to give the committee a heads up on that and happy to answer any questions.
Any questions for Mr. Van Kirkhoff? Thank you. Moving on to zoning petitions.
Good morning. We have two zoning petitions this morning, and they're actually a pair that we've been working on for quite a while, and they're both quite unique. So you'll be interested for both of these. The first one is petition number 4650, the petitioner Glenn Wakefield. Mr. Wakefield is here this morning, so after our presentation, if you have any questions for him, he'd be happy to answer those. And Blair, if you could put the PowerPoint up. Mr. Wakefield has been working with us for a while. He's going to be growing produce of a high quality and a bit unique processes on property that he's purchased out by the village of Burlington. The rezoning would be from F district farming to E1 district estate residential, which would allow him to construct a new residence on the parcel because produce farming is very labor intensive and best if you're living on the same farm. This is the 2040 land use plan. You can see the village of Burlington. The parcel in question is outlined in red at the intersection of French Road and I'm forgetting the name of the cross street. It's not on there. Lenshaw Road. Adjacent to the village, you can see the land use pattern is pretty diverse in terms of some larger parcels, some smaller parcels. The 2040 land use plan shows this as countryside, estate, residential, in the areas mixed with farming. Here its location on the overall map. You can see it's in the area designated for agriculture. And again, on the land use map, it's in the area planned for countryside, estate, residential, broadly in recognition of the other existing uses around there. Here's the zoning map. You can see we have a number of E1 parcels and some F1 parcels. The village of Burlington is in the red crosshatch there. The subject parcel you can see is right across the street from another E1 parcel as well. This is the LISA score, mainly because the LISA score is takes into account its proximity to other development. It shows up as being a low protection effort, but this particular parcel has soils suitable for the farming as well as the large amount of work and inputs he'll be doing to make the soils productive. Here it is on the aerial. You can see kind of the mix of land use and agriculture in the vicinity. Here is a close-up of the area currently being farmed. You'll see in the site plan later, but the proposed location for the residence is going to be on the far south end, along with some buildings to support the farming. Here's his plan for the rows of produce that he'll be producing on the property. And again, his residence and buildings are in the south end. Water Resources has recommending the following stipulations, which were adopted by the zoning board. I won't go through them in detail. They're their typical ones for stormwater ordinance as well as land cash. And KDOT is requesting a couple of stipulations refraining from installing any structures in the future half right away of French Road, and that the petitioner is responsible for obtaining necessary permits for the access to be constructed. Our Regional Planning Commission was not applicable. Zoning Board of Appeals recommends approval with the stipulations. Now it's before you this morning. I'm happy to answer any questions. As I mentioned, Mr. Wakefield is here as well.
Are there any questions for Mr. Wakefield or Mr. Van Kirkhoff? If not, I would entertain a motion to approve.
Arroyo moves.
Moved by Arroyo, seconded by
Leonard will second.
Leonard. Any further discussion? Would you please call the roll?
Arroyo. Doherty.
Doherty, yes.
Garcia.
Garcia, yes.
Iqbal.
Iqbal, yes.
Tepe.
Yes.
Leonard.
Leonard, yes.
Berman.
Berman, yes.
Williams.
Williams, yes. Good luck, Mr. Wakefield. Thank you. Next item, Mr. Van Kirkhoff.
Your second and final petition this morning is petition 4653. A petitioner is Weiss Commercial Properties LLC. This is another unusual one that we've been working on for a while. It's arguably one of the county's most well-known iconic farmsteads because of its location in the county. This is in Board Member Linder's District 13 for rezoning from F District Farming to F2 District Agriculture-related Sales, Service, and Business for a landscape business. On the 2040 land use plan, this is in a pocket. It's a little leftover parcel from surrounded by the city of Geneva. Most of the area annexed by the city of Geneva, you'll see in aerials that are to the north and west of this parcel are part of the Prairie Green development and Forest Preserve land owned further to the west. And then this is right where Kesslinger and Peck has the flyover overpass. This is it on the conceptual land use strategy showing where it is in the critical growth area. This is it on the land use map. It was an area shown for countryside, estate, residential, due to the existing residents and farmstead that have occupied that site for quite some time. Here it is on the zoning map. It's currently zoned F District Farming and is existing non-conforming under that zoning district. The petitioner proposes to use this for their landscape business operations. Here it is on the aerial, and you can see in the aerial the vast area to the north and west, which is part of that Prairie Green open space and water recharge area. A little bit closer, you'll see the other parts of the intersection, which again is a flyover, so it's elevated. You have a church use in the city of Geneva on the northeast corner, some residential on the southeast corner, and then on the southwest corner is the city of Geneva's water treatment plant, as well as our own animal control facility. And then you start to see the existing buildings on the subject parcel. Here's a close-up of the existing buildings and areas that they're going to be using for storage or operations, as well as continue to farm and use the about half the site for farming. The residents would be used by a on-site resident employee because of the isolated nature of the amount of equipment and significance of the operation there. Here's a plat of survey. I didn't cover the access, but when the flyover was created, the access to this parcel was extended up to the north, and it's off of Peck Road, quite some distance from the subject parcel. Water Resources is recommending their usual stipulations regarding the stormwater ordinance, and impervious areas added since 2019 will require a best management practice. Ann Wilford is here this morning if you have any questions on that. All of our F2s are considered a special use under our zoning ordinance, so this was reviewed similarly to a special use, even though it's also a map amendment. So these factors were taken into account by our zoning board of appeals, and their report to the county board is also in your packet. This was not applicable for the regional planning commission. Zoning board of appeals recommended approval with the stipulations. It's before you this morning, and Mr. Chairman, is Kate McCracken online?
Yes, she is.
Okay.
Ms. McCracken, would you like to present to the committee?
There you go. I think Mark covered everything. What I did say to is this is a function of bringing into its appropriate zoning classification. The residential structure has been there, the farming structures have been there. The operation is uniquely slotted for exactly the F2. So we've been at this for a while, just kind of making sure that we checked all the boxes, and it feels like it's a really good transition from farming to the uses that do surround it. The access is fairly straightforward. And really, this is just, in my mind, a function of giving this the appropriate classification for the way it's intended to be used, the way it has been used, and the way it will be used in the future.
Thank you, Kate. I would note that I received an email from Mr. Linder. This is his district. He has no objection to the project. Ms. McCracken, do you have something else to say?
No, I just wanted to say I'm available
Mark,
for
did you
any
have something?
questions.
Yeah, and my apologies, I was remiss in mentioning I have Julia Tavanger, Historic Preservation Planner, right next to me. Our county's Historic Preservation Plan, which strongly encourages the continued and adaptive use and preservation of farm buildings for other uses. And this is a great situation where the owner, since they purchased it, has already reinvested in maintaining the many agricultural structures that don't have obviously a use anymore, given its size of the parcel. And so it's a great adaptive use and consistent with the county's plan as well.
You know, I would note, as someone who drove by that site for 20 years, twice a day, that this site was tremendously impacted from the elevation of Kesslinger and Peck Roads. I mean, you're actually at the intersection, you almost look down on this property. So this is an excellent use for this property. And the owners have done a tremendous amount of work to improve the property. It's much better looking than it was 5 years ago. I think it's an excellent use for the project. I do have a question, though. I did note in the packet that there is some issue with maybe some impervious surfaces that have been added and that it's not in compliance. And they're going to bring the property in compliance with our stormwater ordinance. What are they going to do to bring the property into compliance?
Yeah, they've actually submitted a permit, and the engineer gave me the resubmittal on based on their original submittal. So they're in great shape. I anticipate issuing the permit this week. They're putting in a retention basin to manage 1 inch of water. They're below the detention threshold. The stipulation is in there that when they hit 25,000, they'll trigger stormwater detention. But it's my understanding and talking to them that this is a fully developed site and they don't intend to do that. So they'll be in compliance with the stormwater ordinance with that retention basin.
Are there any questions for the petitioner or for staff? Seeing none, I'd entertain a motion to approve.
Roy moves.
Arroyo moved,
Leonard will second.
seconded by Mr. Leonard. Is there any further discussion? Seeing none, will the clerk please call the roll?
Arroyo, Doherty. Mr. Doherty. It looks like he dropped off. Garcia,
Garcia, yes.
Iqbal,
Iqbal, yes.
Tepe,
Tepe, yes.
Leonard,
Leonard, yes.
Berman,
Berman, yes.
Williams.
Williams, yes. Thank you, Ms. McCracken.
Great, thank you very much.
We're going to move on to our Property Code Enforcement Division, Mr. Malm, excuse me.
Good morning, John Mall, Kane County Code Enforcement Officer. I see a couple new faces in here. Welcome aboard. Kane County Code Enforcement, we try to act as a liaison with other divisions in Kane County as well. So if you need anything, feel free to give us a call and we'll try to point you in the right direction or act as a liaison with that other division without ruffling any feathers from any other departments. We prepare a monthly report every month with our statistics for that month and the previous years. That's attached in your packet. This month, we've changed it just a little bit. We added 2023, 2024, 2025 on there. And we've been acting as a liaison for translation with Spanish quite a bit. We have 2 fluent Spanish-speaking employees in our division. So we've started tracking that a little bit to show usefulness with other agencies as well. We've remained busy this month, even though it's a winter month, and had a couple more cases open and closed more than last year. Any questions at all from anyone?
I have a question.
Okay.
What's your typical case involve?
It's a wide range of stuff. Misuse of zoning, I would say, is probably the biggest and the most complex case to deal with because, they're going to have to rezone or find a new home for their business or something of that nature. So it does take a while to correct those problems, and they'd be the most complex, I would say. Somebody parking on the lawn or something is pretty easy to
Mhm.
resolve, but misuse of zoning would be probably the most complex.
Thank you. Okay, we'll move on to planning and special projects. Mr. Van Kirkhoff.
Yes, and before we do, I just want to add, since we have some new board members, one of the keys to success of this new property co-enforcement unit, one has been John Mull's leadership, but the two staff members that he mentioned have just been phenomenal. Our goal with property co-enforcement when the county board set this up was always not to be punitive, but to help people understand what they need to do for compliance, and having the ability to have English, Spanish, communications both orally and in writing with the notices we sent, with the information to help people understand, where they've gone outside the county's regulations and what they need to do. It's just really expedited that to be able to have those relationships, that one-on-one contact, either out in the field or when they come into our office. So, I'm excited to see the new green bars, because 2023 we're just, started halfway through the year. Last year was our first full year. And you can see already the carryover benefits of the unit working, at 100% capacity. So thank you, John.
Mr. Gripe.
Yeah, I can echo this personally. I've had some personal experience in my neighborhood with your department's expertise. We had a Airbnb that was operating way beyond what zoning would permit. And both Mark and all the people that I talked to actually got involved, told us what we could do, what the neighborhood could do and couldn't do. They've been very, very helpful. So.
Okay, moving on.
Now on to our monthly report for our planning division. Projects are in your report. I don't go through these in detail because a lot of these activities and projects are reported at either the Jobs Committee or the Agriculture Committee. But we like to summarize their work, and happy to answer any questions. I do want to point out that having our own GIS person on staff in this past month enabled us to quickly respond to requests from the somewhat newer village of Caneville to get a new zoning map printed for them. The one they had sitting around there was a little outdated and old, so we got them a refresh map. And it's nice to be able to respond quickly to our small communities with those kind of requests. Happy to answer any questions on the report. Otherwise, ask that you place it on file.
Thank you. Do you want to introduce your resolution?
Yes, I'm going to turn this over to Julia Tabong as our longtime preservation planner. Before she gets into the nuts and bolts of this, I just want to compliment her along with our other planning team. They've been really great in the last 5 years, particularly in applying for grants that promote the county's goals and provide practical funding and assistance to some of our property owners. So Julie had identified this grant. She applied for it once. We learned from that experience, from the comments. She applied again, and we were awarded a grant, which I'm going to let her explain. The resolution is just a follow-up formality from receiving the grant last fall to amend the 2025 budget. It's a 3-year grant, but I'll let Julia kind of give an abridged version of her presentation that she gave back in October. And thank you, Julia, for finding this grant.
Thank you. So I have a short PowerPoint for you. Oh, problem. It's up. Does it keep the surround up there? Does it usually do that? So, okay. Oh, there we go. Yeah, it's very varnish. That is, it's actually the Gould cider barn siding. I got a picture of that. So as Mark said, we were presented this grant, excuse me, in October of last year. The National Park Service has this grant called the Paul Brune Historic Revitalization Grant. And it's for rehabilitating historic structures, and we received $750,000 to do that. That is the maximum award you can receive. And the development department is going to provide $50,000 from staff time as our local match. And as Mark said, today's request is for a budget adjustment of $250,000 to reflect the first year of this 3-year grant. So the goal of the program is to provide funding to rural areas to create economic revitalization through the rehabilitation of historic structures. And there are a couple of requirements that we had to meet. First of all, it has to be in the rural part of the county as defined by the USDA. And if you take a look at the map on the left, the golden area is the area that is deemed more urban, essentially because it has more people living there. So our project area is essentially the light gray off-white area. And you can see it's kind of a half and half mix. The dots on the map are our current landmarks. So the other part of this requirement is that by the end of our project timeline, we need to have all of the buildings that we give the money to, the funding to be on the National Register of Historic Places. Our program will be providing subgrants to property owners in the rural areas of the county. So the idea is that this program will make a visible impact on those buildings that receive funding, and each recipient will be able to better utilize their building, draw more visitors, and thereby generating more revenue. And, they'll be able to invest in further development and rehabilitation in their property in the future. Subgrant recipients could be not-for-profits, museums, Forest Preserve District, or local for-profit businesses such as local food outlets, recreational and educational programs, and even some individuals with high-profile agricultural buildings. During the next several months, staff will be creating sub-grant program guidelines, application materials, sub-grant agreements, and a template for a sign that will be placed at each project. Once all of these items are complete and approved by the National Park Service staff, the application process can begin. So we've got a little bit of work to do ahead of time before we'll actually receive applications. And in an effort to have as many structures in the county as possible be eligible for this program, we're going to try and get a National Register designation. It's called a multi-property nomination, where we can essentially name all the types of buildings in Kane County that are historic, and then the individual buildings can do their individual nomination, and then everybody will be eligible. We're going to, hopefully we're going to have interns graduate students doing some of the work. I actually have somebody online already to do at least one. And I've got a couple of other leads. So, and then we'll rely on a consultant if we need to. We're not there yet. We don't know where we're going to be. Project requirements are that the work must be adhered to the Secretary of the Interior standards for rehabilitation of historic structures. And upon completion, there will be either a covenant or a preservation easement on the building, which is based on the amount of the grant that they receive. Also, we will have a project sign that will have to be installed. Applicants will create their own scope of work and hire their own architect if they need one, and their own contractor. Projects may be simple, such as roof repairs, painting, or repointing, or they could be larger, such as a foundation or structural repair. And I believe that is all that I have in my presentation.
Thank you, Julia. Any questions for Mrs. Fong? Yes.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Two questions. Number one, obviously, any historical structure or building, whether it's owned privately or say in the forest preserve, could qualify for this.
Yes, as long as we can get a National Register designation. And I will be working very closely with our state historic preservation office because they're the ones that actually administer the National Register for the state.
Oh, that'd be great. And my second question is, with respect to this grant, which I'm thrilled about, and I'm glad we've gotten it, are we assured that we're getting all the money, or have we gotten any of it yet, considering what's going on in our country right now?
Well, the one thing I wanted to let you all know is that this funding actually comes from the National Historic Preservation Fund. So it's not taxpayer dollars. It is actually it's money that is received from offshore drilling leases. It was put into place in 1966 with the National Historic Preservation Act. Now, with that said, we have an account that has already been made for us to draw money down from, but Mark can tell you further. We haven't spent anything yet, so we haven't lost anything.
Yeah, so that it's already, the grant's been approved, it's set up, it'd be a drawdown. We have not received anything from the federal government that would suggest that this has been part of the pause or anything. But the good news, it is a drawdown thing. So we would be, the county wouldn't be fronting any money on this and then getting reimbursed. It'd be drawn down as the bills are approved. Our only real outlay at this point is our staff moving ahead with preparing those application documents and things to be ready to, release for applications for the use of the grant funds. And at this point, I think, unless we hear anything differently, I think that's worth proceeding with.
Thank you.
Mr. Roth.
One of the barns that came up for discussion last year, is that included as a potential project for this? Yeah, I think it's on the Forest Reserve.
Yeah, that's a farm at the corner of Brundage and 38, I believe.
Yeah, we'd have to go back to the map to see if that's in the rural area of the county
It is.
or not. It is. So, so at this point, we'd also be working closely with the Forest Preserve District staff to help them identify priorities and projects, as well as, the other eligible categories. So
that would make Mavis very happy.
Invitation at the county board from some area citizens who are wanting to preserve that barn.
Yeah.
So if that's possible, that would be nice.
yeah,
Thank
and I
Thank
will
you.
add that during my tenure, I actually started out with the county as a preservation planner. Scott Berger served in that role for a while, and Julia, and all three of us would say that the most common question we get from anybody who is interested in the county's landmark program or getting just, assistance on preserving, any of our historic structures is there any money available? And the answer is, until now, has been no. So we're very grateful to actually, move forward with something that will pay for the expensive improvements to preserving historic structures.
I have a question. Sorry. I know that it's this grant for 3 years and then.
Ms. Garcia, could you use your microphone, please? I'm sorry.
Sorry, every year, is it 250,000 that we can spend, or you guys can go ahead and do, I don't know, 500,000 one year and then?
Yeah, the amounts can vary for the purposes of the application initial budgeting. We just did equal amounts for the 3 years. But as we see how far we progress this year and prepare the 2026 budget, we'll probably be having, more of that. And then probably a lot of the actual spending drawdown will happen in the third year when people are actually doing their projects and getting the drawdown amounts for that.
And my second question is there going to be, I'm assuming, Julie, that you will have all the reports and everything done, so we, at the end of the 3 years, we can go ahead and consider, another grant based on our success. But my question is, they're going to have their own contractors. They're going to have to go ahead and have all that stuff on their own. Are we going to be able to manage that and or how are we going to go ahead and control that?
Yeah, excuse me. Yes, it is assumed that I will be managing the performance. They actually do because they have to follow the Secretary of the Interior standards. It'll be myself and probably a couple of interns will be going through and making sure that everything is, when they submit their plans, the plans are going to have, when they start, they're going to have to, follow the Secretary of the Interior standards. So it's like their work plan is already going to tell me that they're going to do something that is correct and appropriate. And then, yeah, we'll be doing site visits and making sure that plans are being followed.
Yeah, I'll also add that during Julia's tenure with the county here, she, for a period of time, split her time between working for our department in our historic preservation program and working for the Office of Community Reinvestment, doing project management on grants and rehab projects. So she's very familiar with the federal guidelines and what we call monitoring for compliance, those types of things. So fortunately, she's got experience in both worlds.
Mr. Doherty, do you have a question or comment?
Yeah, I do, Mark. Thank you, Mr. Chair. Mark, are you looking at maybe doing 10 or 15 $10,000 projects? Or are you looking for $100,000 or $200,000 projects?
Generally, we're looking at the former, more smaller projects. But the other aspect of this is the county does have a historic preservation commission, which is appointed by you as the county board. And they are going to be used as our, in-house experts, both in giving staff guidance on setting up the parameters for the grant applications as well as the amounts.
Thank you.
Any other questions?
Mr. Chairman, Allen,
Yes, Ms. Allen.
I just wanted to layer on some more thanks to our staff for going after this. As a North Ender, the Teeple Barn was real close to our hearts, and a lot of energy went into trying to save that barn by a lot of volunteers. And a terrible storm took it out, and there was no recourse, no insurance, no nothing. There is a model lovingly built of the Teeple Barn housed at the extension office. So if you happen to be there, you can pop over and take a look at that. But having had a wonderful building be martyred to the elements, I just want to say thanks so much for finding this source of money and having the expertise to go after it and then make it work. So thanks.
Thank you, Ms. Allen. With that, I'd like someone to make a motion to approve the resolution.
Leonard will move.
Leonard moves.
Deputy seconds.
Mr. Tepe seconds. Any further discussion? Seeing none, roll call vote, please.
Arroyo. Doherty.
Yes.
Garcia.
Garcia, yes.
Iqbal.
Iqbal, yes.
Pepe, yes.
Leonard,
Leonard, yes.
Berman,
yes.
Williams.
Williams, yes. Good work on getting the grant. Thank you, Julia. Moving on to subdivision. Do we have any report on subdivisions?
No report.
No report. Moving on to environmental resources. Do we have an environmental resources report?
No report.
Moving on, Office of Community Reinvestment. Mr. Berger, are you on the line?
Yes, good morning, Mr. Williams.
Good morning, Mr.
We
Berger.
have one. Yes, can you hear me?
Yes, please proceed.
Okay, we have one item for you today. It's simply our resolution confirming the 4P cards that are issued to my office and the credit limit amounts associated with those.
Would someone like to make a motion?
Leonard will
Moves.
move.
Leonard moves,
Pepe seconds.
seconded by Tepe. Any discussion? Please call the roll.
Arroyo. Doherty,
Sorry, yes.
Garcia, Garcia, yes. Iqbal,
Iqbal, yes.
Pepe,
Yes.
Leonard,
Leonard, yes.
Berman,
Berman, yes.
Williams.
Williams, yes. Is there any new business to discuss? See none. I'd ask the reports be placed on file. Would someone move for unanimous consent?
Pepe, yes, for unanimous consent.
Any objection? See none, the reports will be placed on file. Is there any need for an executive session? I don't believe so. I think we're done. Could I have a motion to adjourn?
So move.
Second.
Moved by Berman, seconded by Tepe. All in favor, say aye.